Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Bible Talk from the Green Room. We are in the commands of Jesus. We're in week number 29. Command number 29 it says, love your enemies and pray for those who abuse you. We're going to look at three pieces of scripture here. Matthew 5:44 says, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Luke 6:28 says, pray for those who abuse you. And then we look at Luke 23:34. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. As we get into the study here today, it says Jesus gives us numerous examples of the kinds of behavior involved in loving our enemies. First mentioned in the Sermon on the Mount after the command to love is prayer. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. That's Matthew 5:44. And pray for those who abuse you, Luke 6:28. This is enormously important in telling us how Jesus thinks about what love is. First, it tells us that love really wants the good of the enemy. This is confirmed by the supplementary command, bless those who curse you, in Luke 6:28. To bless is to desire someone's well-being and turn it into an expressed longing directed to God. I really like how the lesson here breaks it down. It goes in and it reads the model prayer that we call the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread and forgive our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. That's Matthew 6:9-13. It says, it would also be unwarranted to think that the loving prayer for our enemy should ask for less important things than we're told to pray for ourselves. So it goes through 6 things here that we as believers should pray for our enemies. It says we should ask God that our enemy first and foremost come to hallow God's name, that he value God above all and reverence him and admire him in proportion to God's worth. The second thing it tells us that we should pray that our enemy come under the saving sway of God's kingly rule, and that God would exert his kingly power to make our enemies his own loyal subject. The third thing it says we should pray that our enemy would love to do the will of God the way the angels do it in heaven, with all their might and without reservation, with the purest motives and supreme joy. Fourth thing here it says we should pray that God would supply our enemy with all the physical resources of food, clothing, shelter, education, health care, transportation, etc. that he needs to fulfill God's calling on his life. We should want this for him the way we want it for ourselves. The fifth thing here, it says we should pray for his sins and that they would be forgiven, and that our enemy would be a forgiving person as well. Finally, we should pray the sixth thing here, that God protect our enemies from temptation and from the destructive powers of the devil. Now that's saying a lot there, but that is what God is telling us to do. The most compelling example of praying for one's enemy was when Jesus was on the cross. You see it in Luke 23:33. It says, there they crucified him. And then Jesus prayed, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That was in Luke 23:34. The prayer here draws together 3 acts of the heart involved in loving our enemies. First, prayer, then forgiveness, and then mercy. And that's what Jesus was displaying there in those last moments on the cross. And that's what we're called to do. When I talked and did a video here a while back on forgiveness, I talked about when we're looking at the model prayer that's called the Lord's Prayer, and it talks about forgive us as we forgive those who do bad against us. Basically what it's saying is Father, please forgive me, but only to the extent I forgive others. So as others persecute us, as others are our enemies, we need to pray for their lives the same things that we're praying in our lives, that they would receive Christ, that they would love God, that they would honor God, that they would be forgiving people, that they would be people that would love upon their neighbors. I think if we exert this kind of prayer life for those that are against us and I just think the world would change greatly, and it wouldn't have anything to do with, elections, what country you lived in, anything like that. I think if we all had that heart for God, and that we were praying for others just as Jesus would have, and that we're praying that hearts would change, and those that aggravate us and drive us crazy and even push us to the point of just disliking them at times, if we would have that forgiving heart and pray for them, I think the world would see some great change there. Thank everybody for tuning in today. I hope everybody puts focus on mental health at home, at work, out in the community. I look forward to sharing a few videos with you in the coming week. Again, thanks for tuning in. Like and share this video. Send it along to someone else. And I hope you have a great day. I love you all.